Hey teachers, in this video, it is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to walk through some of the ins and outs of what we figured out works with breakouts and what doesn't work with breakouts. So bear with me as I go through this. I'm going to show you different ways to initiate the breakouts with students, and you can pick which way works best for you. So before I get started, I do want to suggest that you get one extension. This extension is the Breakout Rooms extension, and whether or not you use this extension in order to facilitate your breakout rooms, it is nice to have because it adds some other controls here, allowing you to turn the sound on and off in rooms. So you don't have to have an extension like Mute Tab. Some of you may use Mute Tab and find that it works just great for you, but I happen to like the button that's already built into Meet. It also will change the coloring of some of your buttons as well. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to head out to the Chrome Web Store, and I am just going to search for Google Meet Breakout Rooms. This is not an extension your students need to have, so you will only need to have it. It is a purple icon with a white B. You'll want to add this to Chrome. You don't need to have it show up in your top bar. You can actually leave this one unpinned. It will work just fine without pinning. A few other things that you may find beneficial to have extension-wise when you're working with breakout rooms is tab resize, or some way to quickly get your screens tiled, whether you use the windows and arrows or use the tab resize to have multiple rooms. The other thing I like is my extensions manager, which is called Extensions Manager, aka Switcher, and that just lets me turn off a bunch of my extensions so that I don't have so many extensions running, which also slows down my browser as well. So keeping in mind when you are doing meets this way, having multiple meets open running is testing a lot of things. It's testing your network, it's testing your device capability, and if you're trying to have students have multiple meets open at once, it's also testing things on their end. So a couple of things that you can do in order to minimize this is, first off, limiting how many meets you have open. In the group that I tested, we had a teacher who recommended, thanks Sean, shout out to Sean, recommending 3 seems to be the magic number. So having open more than 3 Google Meets, if you have the capability and you can figure it out, go for it. But we found that even when I tried to open more than 3, I crashed Chrome. So 3 seemed to be the magic number to let me float in between them and not take forever to mute and unmute within certain things. I guess I could turn on my camera so you can see my face, and drag this over here so I'm not looking at 2 screens. No, that's not going to work back here because I'm only recording 1. Okay, so 3 seems to be the magic number, that many meets. The other thing that you can have students do is mute their cameras. So if you're having a lot of problems with some interference, muting the cameras. And then the last thing is as soon as students get in the breakout room, I would suggest having them get out of the original room that you started in. And you do that so that students aren't testing their bandwidth trying to have 2 meets running at once. So let's get started with using this extension and some other ways that you might be able to facilitate a meet. So I am going to actually go to my test classroom here. I'm going to close out of that Google Meet for the moment, and I'm going to go into my test classroom. And in my test classroom, here you are, I'm going to have students join the Google Meet through the Meet link in my banner. You can do it this way, or you could have students join the Google Meet through whatever nickname you normally use with students. So if you had students join this way, you could keep it super simple and create your 3 breakout rooms. And we're going to do this in the chat. So breakout 1, stay here. And that's going to be Lainey, Josiah, and Pete. Okay, so breakout 1 stays here. Breakout 2. You're going to go to, we're going to give them a unique link. So breakout 2, I'm going to give you a unique link, and I'm going to put names there. Okay, so we've posted the links here. I just want to go over how to create this unique link. So this unique link is a Google Meet nickname link that will work uniquely with this. So if I click on one of these, it is going to open a Google Meet with the nickname Tatooine. Now, this one would open it, and this is just for the purpose of you knowing what to type. You need to type https://g.co/meet/ and then whatever your nickname afterwards. So here's an example. The nickname of my meet is Tatooine. And if I click on this and allow it to open, you'll notice, I'm going to give it a moment to load, it's going to load a Google Meet with the nickname Tatooine. So remember, using those nickname meets helps us be able to close out of things appropriately with students when we are done. So once you have those, I'm going to get all 3 open. Remember, this is way 1. I'm just posting the link in the Google Meet, and I've got all 3 Google Meets open on 3 different tabs here. And then I have my Google Classroom here. So the original Google Meet is the Google Meet from my Meet Link tab. And then the second 2 Meet links are ones that are nicknames. You can see the nickname down here in the corner. And then that's the nickname for my Google Classroom Meet. So doing this way and keeping some students in breakout 1, which is really the classroom you started with, means that you're not trying to open 4 Google Meets. You're only opening the 3. If you approach it this way, you could use tab resize. So we're going to use tab resize to resize my 3 of my tabs. And I'm going to notice I've got 3 Google Meets running. I'm going to use this 2x2. And now I can see the Google Meet in each window. What you have here now is, because you have that breakout extension running, even though you're not using all the tools in the breakout extension, you are able to click to unmute the sound, click for the microphone, and then click for the camera in that meet. So now you notice that I have controls. One recommendation that also came from teachers is to not leave your camera on in all the meets, only turn your camera on when you also want to have their mic on. Otherwise, it confuses students. They think you're talking to them when you may be talking to a completely different room. We did find that trying to listen to the sound in multiple meets at once is not advisable. It really makes it hard to be able to hear and understand what students are trying to say. If you need to at any point talk to all of the students, you would want to just simply click the mic on in all 3, and you can notice by the little sound here, it is producing that sound in all 3 of those classrooms. So if I needed to turn on the mic and talk to students, I could do that. I could also then turn on the camera in all 3 meets at once as well. And I can say, hey, or whatever I need to do, and then I'd want to turn these things back off. Doing this without turning on the speaker allows you to talk without hearing all of the different noise that might be going on in the Google Meets. So that is way 1. What I would suggest when you do way one of doing the breakouts is when you're ready to go back to the main classroom, go about it in two ways. First off, remember these students up here, they're already in that main classroom, so they don't need to do anything. In fact, I might keep my students who maybe have some more technology challenges or maybe need some more support in that original room because it's less moving around for them. That's up to you. And then if you need to get the students back into their original meet, you can go about this two ways. You can say, hey, hang up from your other meet, go back to Google Classroom, click in the banner, and click back in the code. You might do that, and that could certainly work. If you don't want to go about that, you could take your banner link here and post it in the chat for each of these groups and say, oops, that would not be, I did not get it copied. And I don't want to open another one. Okay, so we're going to paste that here, and I'm going to say, okay, I need everyone to click back into these meets, click back into the main meet, get out of your breakout meet. Now, if they are in the breakout meet and they don't get out, here's where you as a teacher want to make sure that they're out of that breakout meet and they're not trying to get back in. So what you can do is you can click on the person over here and you'll have the ability to remove the students if they don't get out of that secondary meet. Once they're out of the secondary meet, wait 30 seconds or so, and then you'd want to leave the call for each of those. Okay, so students are now all back in the main meet. I can talk to them, or students could simply hang up from their breakout and be done for the day. That part is up to you. You'd still want to end your meets in the normal way. So that's way one that you could go about facilitating this, where you post something in the chat. Now, if you want to get a little bit fancier, you could create some type of fun Google slide deck that you share with students, and then they click on the links in that Google slide deck in order to get to the breakout. So that is another option. So we're going to go back down to one Google Meet, and I'm going to show you how I have a slide deck ready to go. I'm going to share this slide deck. So I'm going to get the link for the slide deck. So I changed my settings to anyone with the link can view. And I'm pasting it here, but I'm changing something on the end of it. Instead of this edit $USP equals sharing, I'm going to backspace out and I am going to put in here preview. And the reason why I do this is what pops up on the student screen, turning back on my camera so you can at least see me. What pops up on the student screen is actually the preview of the slideshow, and it makes it much easier for them to click the links. If you don't do that, it's going to pop into the edit version of the slideshow, and then sometimes it's hard to click on the links. So you'll notice here, when I click here and I hit select on that, it brings me to this, and then all I have to do is hover over the different rooms. So this actually comes from a teacher I found on Twitter. She's an ESL teacher. She's phenomenal. Her Twitter handle is Mrs. Park Shine. And she uses breakout rooms a little bit differently. Instead of having specific student groups, she gives students the option of how they want to work. So she has a teacher group in which you have on the camera and maybe you turn on and off your mic. She has a student group that wants to keep their mics off, but they want to chat. Use the chat is how they're going to communicate with each other. She has a group that wants to be able to communicate live with each other. And then she has a group that likes to just keep it quiet, calm. They're just there so the teacher can pop in if needed. So she has these then linked, and students would simply click on the one that they want to open. And then they would open it. Now, as a teacher, you'd want those other rooms open. So I'm going to get those other rooms open here. I'm going to close out of that choice board. Keeping in mind, I want to keep 3 rooms. Beyond that, I might crash my computer. So I'm letting these 3 rooms get loaded. Notice I actually use the links that I have hooked to my image in the Google slide is simply so when you're working on this, you'll notice that it takes a while for things to load. So I would recommend getting open all of your meets before you start getting students in them. Otherwise, this can be a little bit frustrating because you don't want to send students to the meet before you have them open. Especially like with nicknames, that's not going to work for students. So still waiting. Drinking some coffee in between. I'm going to click join now. So going about a Google Meet this way, it must be Friday and my computer is just saying I am done. Going about a Google Meet this way, you would do everything else the same as what I showed you in the very first example. The only difference is instead of having students see what their assignments are directly in the chat, you would have some type of choice board in a Google slide or a Jamboard or something like that that would have that information. Jamboards right now, I'm pretty sure you can't post a link within the Jamboard that's active, so you may want to stay away from a Jamboard at the moment. So once I have that, then I would go about running my Meet. I would use tab resize to get all of my screens tiled. Here we are. So now I can see my 3 different Meets, and then I have my Google Classroom open here. So that's way 2. Now you could perhaps have this choice board that I showed you earlier with the Star Wars planets. Instead of having a Google Meet where you have students come to one main room and then go to separate rooms, you could have a Google Meet where you have them all start in their breakout room. So you may want to post some type of board or even a Google Doc with the unique links for students. So they simply click on that, and then that allows them to get into that Google Meet and get started with their meeting right in the breakout. You, again, if you decide to do that, you'd want to have open all of those meetings before. And you can see that my computer is tired because I wasn't having problems with 3 meets earlier, and now it's just saying no. So we're going to close out of these. And I'm going to walk through the breakout extension in this last one. And when I walk through this extension, I want to share that the gentleman who created this extension, if you really want to learn to use it, you have to try it out and you have to practice it and you have to figure out what works and doesn't work. So I am not going to teach you every bit of the ins and outs of this extension. His videos are perhaps the best for walking through things, and I'll show you where you can get that information. So we've got this breakout extension. We're going to go ahead and click it. It's going to load a separate tab. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to start with settings. And I'm going to just focus on some tips and tricks. I am not going to go through every single aspect of this. If you need more directions and you click his question mark up here, he literally has a user's guide video and he has all of his steps, helpful tutorials, video tutorials for everything. This is the best place to go to learn how to use this. So walking through things, we're going to start with settings. The one setting that I happen to like on is the breakout rooms display. I like tiles, separate windows. You could do tab, same window, and then use tab resize. It's up to you. That is just how it's going to lay out your breakout rooms. The next thing I will go through is courses. So your courses lets you set up and save so you don't have to redo this every single time you use it with students. So if you are a high school teacher, you might have period 1, and this is ELA grade 9, period 2, add 2 more. Grade 21. Okay, so keep in mind that these are not 4 different breakout rooms. These are just 4 settings of courses, so you can set separate settings for each course. I am going to make sure that I save those courses in here so that they're there for the rest of the time. Then I'm going to go over to rooms, and here from the course dropdown, I'm going to choose the course I want to program first, and I want to program period 1 first. So I will need a main room URL, and then I will need my nicknamed URLs. Now you can call these whatever you want. So main should always be first, and then maybe this is breakout 1. Maybe I want to even call this main, and this will also be breakout 1. This is going to be breakout 2, and then I'm going to make this one breakout 3. Now in this blank, your main room needs to be whatever URL you want students to be starting with. So if you're a teacher who gives them a nickname to start, so let's say every day I start my class with Blaze Tech is how they get into my Google Meet. I would just type in Blaze Tech as the nickname. The extension will do the rest. If you have them go through Google Classroom, then you can take your Google Classroom link from here. So we're going to get my Google Classroom link. And I would just copy and paste this link right from my classroom. Now keep in mind, we have been changing these to ensure students can't get back into them. So you'd want to make sure you always put in the most recent classroom. It doesn't let you highlight. You have to actually either backspace or select and delete. So I can paste this in, and then here, I would just want to use nicknames. So this might be Blaze Group 2, Blaze Group 3. Make sure your breakout nicknames are unique enough that you're not going to potentially be in someone else's breakout. So you probably don't want to use breakout 1, breakout 2 as your meeting nicknames because you could potentially be in another person's. He will give you pointers if you start watching the videos about making sure that you're only signed into one Google account when you set this up, or it will mess with the extension. And he gives lots of important messages underneath here as well. So I have technically 3 breakouts that are nicknamed because the link in Google Classroom is also technically a nickname under the hood. So now once I am set up, I'm going to go over and head over to Meet, and I'm going to start at the top and work towards the bottom. So I've got my account. I want to start my class. I've picked which period I want. So I want period 1. It has 2 breakouts. I could select that I only want 1 breakout today. You don't have to use both. So it gives you your breakouts. And then you would want to open sync both. You want to do all of this before you meet with the students so that you have things open and ready to roll. So I'm going to click open sync both. And then I'm going to have to drag these windows over here so that you can see them. I have 2 screens, and if you are a 2-screen user, you will find it so much easier for breakouts. Okay, so it's loading the 3 Google Meets. It will actually auto join the Google Meets for you. You shouldn't have to click on join now. Just keep in mind, Google Meets open before the students come into your classroom. So while that's doing that, I'm going to head back over to the extension. I'm going to minimize things a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have this, I'm doing period 1. I'm running technically 3 Google Meets. This one didn't want to join, so I'm going to have to join it manually. There it goes. The codes will pop up, so you'll see the custom group names. We're just going to close out of that. The nice thing is it will rename your tabs. So this saves you a lot of time and headache, as you'll notice it renames my tabs. So this tab is called Main Breakout 1. I've got Breakout 2, and then I'm about to have Breakout 3 running here. I'm going to move this guy over. Okay, the really important thing to note on this is you want to make sure you see the pink box in the corner or another color box in the corner of all 3. If you don't see that, chances are you are not synced all the way. So once you have all of the rooms open, at any point you can go back and click the sync button and it will resync your rooms if anything is stuck. So that's going to be really important for making all of the rest of this work. The next thing you'll want is you've got 2 different ways to lay out the breakouts for students and giving them directions in which thing that you want them to get into. So I'm going to turn off those tools. I have the ad hoc option, which lets me pull in all of my students, randomly group, manually adjust, exclude, decide what you're going to do. So the really cool thing is you can choose where students go. And if you are using this method where you're going to have some students stay in the original main room, which you're calling Breakout 1, you would just leave them over here to the side and only drag in the students that you need to go to the other breakout rooms. You can randomly assign as well. So once you have everything set up the way you want, you're going to click the Here button, and this is going to give you the links for those breakouts as well as the names of the students for the breakouts. And you'll want to use this, follow the directions. You'll want to copy paste this into the chat of whatever room all of the students are in. So this is probably going to be the main room. And once you have them in the main room, we're gonna like post here. We're gonna pretend we have students here. I probably wouldn't post all of the breakout, so I might do this, and then I might come down and grab the breakout 2 group and their names. Maybe this is Susie, John, Paul. I do that, and then I would paste the breakout 3 once those kids are good to go. And you paste the breakout 3 names. You can paste it however it's developmentally appropriate for your students. So once you have that pasted, students will then click on the link and start getting into their breakout rooms. Here's where I strongly suggest that you have students get out of the main classroom. So, okay, guys, click on the link. Once you get your other classroom open and you're in there, I want you to make sure you close out of the other classroom that we're in. That will help your students with bandwidth, so they're only trying to run one Google Meet. You do have an option where he talks about pre-assigned breakouts, where you basically like come up with your lists ahead of time and you paste your already done list in the chat as well. So that works as well. And then the last thing that you have, remember, we still have the sync, so if at any point something gets stuck, I can sync. So now we've got 2 sets of controls you want to pay attention to once everyone is in the meets. The top section of controls lets you toggle between the 3 rooms that you have. So you'll notice I can toggle between each of my rooms, and I can choose what I want to do in those rooms. So normally when I toggle like this, it will turn on the speaker for that room so I can hear what's going on. So you'll notice as I toggle over, it should turn off the speaker for breakout 2 and on the speaker for breakout 3. Sometimes it's a little delayed. So notice I can't do it quite as fast as I want to. Let's try toggling again. There it goes. So it turned off breakout 2 and it turned on breakout 3. I'm not in the main classroom, so the speaker's off here. So this means that I'm only hearing the students talk in breakout 3. You also have this option down here that's a broadcast. Now, the broadcast controls your speaker, your mic, and your camera for all 3 of my breakouts at once. Now, the challenge I have with this is when I am using this, I want to make sure I probably don't want to turn on the speaker for all 3 classrooms at once. That means I'm going to hear sound from everyone at once. But if I need to say something to all my students, I'm going to mute that classroom at the moment. I'm going to turn on the mic, and you'll notice, or should notice, that it should unmute the mic in all 3 rooms. Now, it didn't do that. Sometimes that happens. I may need to sync again. Okay, it's synced again. Now I'm going to try the mic again. Not working here. So if that's the case, I'm just going to manually turn on the mic in this classroom so that all 3 classrooms can hear me at once. I can also turn on my camera in all 3 classrooms. And it seems like my main breakout 1 got slightly disconnected. So I'm having to manually turn on my camera there, and there I am. So now I'm going to try to turn off my sound and turn off my camera. It didn't turn off in the main room, so I'm going to do that manually. Be patient with it. It is an extension. It works pretty well, but every once in a while you're going to have that where you've got to do a manual switch. Now, at the very bottom, you do have some options for students. So you can mute all in the main, mute all in the breakouts. You can mute everyone in all rooms. You can mute all in this room only. So this room only would be whatever room you're currently in. You can remove all from this room. And then you can determine breakouts over and class over. What this extension cannot do is send you back into the original Meet. So if you want all of the students to go back into the original Google Meet, when you're done, you've got 2 options. A, give them a code or use your classroom banner and say, hey, go to this code or go to this classroom banner. The other thing you could do is you could post a unique link in your classroom, whether you post the link from your Google Classroom banner in there, or if you're a nickname user, you'd want to make sure you post that what is it, g.co/meet/ and then whatever your code is. Maybe that's my unique. So I'd want to post this so students can click on that and go back to that. You'd want to make sure that students know where to go, whether they're completely done or they need to go back to a room before you start kicking students out. So if I click breakouts are over, you'll notice it opened the window and it should begin kicking students out of those breakouts. There was no one else to kick out. I'm the only one there. Again, you want to be the last one there as a teacher. And then once you're done, you will click the end button to end and you can return to that home screen. I do suggest as a teacher, whenever you're using breakouts, just to make sure that things got closed out properly and students didn't get back in that small window of time that Google, you can get back into a Google Meet, is just take a moment. Go back into that, whatever your Meet code was or your link, and just make sure you're not seeing any students in there. And if you are, get them out of that Meet. The other way that you can do this is you can click that open sync both. Again, it will reload those windows and you can check to see if anyone is in those Google Meets. So I will say that this is an extension. It's beautifully done, but it is not going to work every time. And there are going to be times that either you or the students have some glitches. Can this work for you as a solution right now while we wait for Google to release its official breakout version? Absolutely. And I'd encourage you to try groups in some way. So keep in mind also, while you can do groups using breakouts, sometimes it's even best to just schedule individual time with groups of students. So instead of trying to run 3 breakouts at once, I run one group at once, I meet with them for 20 minutes, and then I meet with my next group, just like I might do in the classroom where I meet with small groups there. That can be really effective to use with students, and you don't have to worry about the technicalities of navigating multiple meetings at once. And you also have the ability to make sure that your computer is going to function as well as possible because you're in a small group, single Google Meet. So however you decide to is up to you. I will help people troubleshoot, but this extension, know that when we hit October and the official release comes from Google, we're going to be moving towards using that. So hopefully this helps you get started. Remember, anytime you can give students small personalized attention, that is going to make all the difference for them, especially while we are remote.